My name is David Carew. I work with Meat Livestock Australia. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Mastercut. This morning's masterclass is all about tenderloin. Before we get started, it's important to recognise the specification of the cut we have in front of us. Australia produces 3 types of tenderloin. The first tenderloin, and the majority of which is produced, is the strap-off tenderloin. And we do that for good reason. It's basically a restaurant-ready type of product. The second specification is called strap-on tenderloin, and basically we'll have a side strap attached to the side of the tenderloin. It's important to understand this specification because it has a lot to do with price. Naturally, in food service markets, that side strap would be trimmed and taken away and will result in a yield loss. The third and final specification we have for tenderloin is bone-in tenderloin, and that's a relatively new cut that's been taking the industry by storm. It's quite an exciting cut. Anything that involves cooking on the bone naturally delivers a wonderful flavour profile. So we have our strap-off tenderloin, and we're just going to start with some very simple trimming. And we would expect to have no more than about 4 or 5% trimming of this tenderloin to make sure we get as big a yield as we possibly can. A small tip: when you're using your knives, just when you're removing silver skin, the blade will take the pathway of least resistance. So if you allow the knife to do the work and not push it, the blade will deliver you a very high yield where it's just silver skin being removed. And you can see blade tip is slightly tilted upwards, and we're allowing the knife to do the work. We're not pushing it anyway, and by doing that we can result in really good yield results from trimming this tenderloin. Again, there's hardly any pressure on that blade. You can see I'm just hanging on to it loosely. The blade tip is slightly pointed upwards, and we're just letting the knife do the work here on that occasion. That's going to give us a great yield, ensure we get more of this product onto the plate, making money for us. So we'll keep all of our trim highly visible for you. Just to show at the end of this exercise, we want to have as zero waste as possible. Don't forget, silver skin is an excellent source for any ragu cooking. So if it's a perfect silver skin to add to a mince, because that through the cooking process will render and give you another level of juiciness to any type of ragu, particularly minced ragus. So we're just removing that fine part of the sinew. We're just going to open that up slightly just to remove that last traces of silver skin. And we're just going to open that up with our knives very gently. Try not to have too much impact on the actual shape of the meat. And I'll explain to you why we're doing that. It's because we actually want to put all this back together. And it's just a small amount of fat we're just going to trim out of the middle of that. We'll bring that out very quickly. This internal fat, of course, is magnificent to put inside burgers, so please do not waste internal fat. It's a fantastic product for burgers. So basically in situ, that is our entire trim. We have our tenderloin. Now, we know the centre cut, we know the Chateaubriand cut, and we have the tail cut. So let's treat it in those 3 groups. To begin with, the most important thing to do with our tenderloin is get as many equal portions as we possibly can. And this is a relatively new technique I'm about to show you, where we'll actually cut the Chateaubriand head off, and we will wrap that up so we can get a nice tight round finish. But before we do, I'm just going to open that up slightly, and with my fingers actually start to paddle the meat. And we're doing this simply so that we can extract the myosin product. That's a natural enzyme inside the meat, and myosin is what will make that meat very sticky, and that will help us join that meat back together again. It only takes 5 or 10 seconds. and you can actually start to feel that meat get sticky, and that's that myosin effect. That means when we clump our muscle meat back together again, we've got some hope of keeping that all in a nice portion. As you can see, it's starting to resemble that shape now. So we're literally going to take off the center cut portion as high as you like to do that. It's going to move our center cut and tail to one side for just 1 second. We're going to concentrate on this part here. Simply, one extra technique I want to share with you today. For us to exact a perfect shape, we need to make the meat more malleable. And nature's given us an opportunity to do that. And you'll find by just breaking down the structural fibre of that meat, will make that meat more malleable for us. So this is just a very simple pressurized massage. And the intention is to break down the structural fibre of the tenderloin in order to make that meat more malleable. And that just simply means that we get a nice consistent portion out of it. I'm going to take that now. Let's bring a simple piece of wrap forward so that we can roll that up nice and tightly. You can do that with a pre-shaped vacuum bag as well. But basically, this technique is purely so that we can allow that meat to set. So ideally now for this shape to take effect, we need that to sit in a cool room, ideally for 6 hours at least, but overnight would be perfect. At the end of that, you have a perfect portion for either sous vide cooking or low temperature cooking. I'm going to put that to one side now and reveal our center cut. And on this occasion, we're actually going to take quite a long tail so that we have nice even portions all the way through. So you can see now we have our center cut, we have our tail portion, we have our first piece of small dice meat, and we have the Chateaubriand cut or the butt tenderloin. And if you're looking for this particular cut of meat, this will come off a beef short loin from the Australian Oz Meat Manual, and you can look for this cut, and it's known as the butt tenderloin. We know what we're doing with the center cut, there's no need to go any further. With the tail cut, recently the trends have been towards understanding just how much nutrition is involved with red meat. So don't forget, this is a power-packed punch full of nutrients and minerals. In fact, it's a major source of iron, zinc, haem iron particularly. And it's a fun way to utilize this end piece by just purely cutting that into small dice that can be served as a starter. So one utilization of this tail pieces is to make simple tapas type dishes where that meat is cooked on its own and delivered with a chef signature sauce, which just makes it all that more special. But a wonderful starter served on a sizzle plate, nice dipping sauce. In every market you have a really nutritious, wonderful first course for some people to start on. So there's our utilization of our tail. There is our center cut. And finally, we have our butt tenderloin. The other alternative we can do for this cut is to actually use our food grade industry bands to measure the portions and to also hold that intact. So assuming we've had this now refrigerated for 12 hours, that shape will have set quite efficiently. And now we are actually able to portion those cuts. So as we cut, trying to keep them nice and consistent. So we'll start around that way. So there we have our beef tenderloin, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 nice, reasonably equal portions. A small tail cut that I believe we can elevate in value and serve as a tapas or a starting item where we put a beautiful signature sauce with that. Don't forget, that's what your customers going through COVID-19 will be looking for into the future, is the taste sensations that only a chef can deliver, with cooking platforms that only a chef can deliver. So there's our tenderloin. As you can see, sparsely 2 or 3% yield loss, a number of portions, and a value add for our final tail piece.